Why don't you just tell us a little bit about Company of Heroes 2?
Yeah, so we're showing Company of Heroes 2 for the first time today. It's the first time press are getting hands-on with it. We're really excited to have you guys play it. It's a sequel to the original Company of Heroes, still to this day the highest rated strategy game out there, and we really wanted to wait to do this sequel till we could do it justice and to really advance and enhance the experience of Company of Heroes.
Okay, and so one of the big things we noticed when we were playing this demo you've got here was that it takes place in Russia. And so why did you guys pick that setting?
So yeah, a change of scene for this game. Company of Heroes 1 was based on the Western Front. It was a 3-month period between the D-Day landings and Operation Market Garden. And I think we've all seen Saving Private Ryan and a bunch of other films based on the Western Front. We wanted to shift over to the Eastern Front this time around because we wanted to tell that story. It's a really interesting part of World War II and one that isn't covered that much in mainstream games, movies, things like that. There have been very few films about the Eastern Front, but it was hugely significant. Germany lost somewhere like 90% of their combat casualties on the Eastern Front, and 17 of the 20 bloodiest battles in human history happened on that front. The other 3 are World War I. Actually, in fact, the D-Day landings, that we've all seen the brutal kind of depictions of that, that was number 23 on the list. So it gives you an idea of just the impact and the scale of this battle, and it's kind of a lot of amazing stories that just haven't really been told before, so something we really wanted to focus on for this game.
All right, and so real-time strategy is a genre of games that has a huge following. But there's players of, when people play Company of Heroes 2, they're going to notice a lot of mechanics that aren't standard in the genre. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the kind of bells and whistles that you guys have put in that really affect the gameplay? Okay,
so first and foremost, the type of strategy game Company of Heroes is, we're a much more tactical real-time strategy game. We're not a maths puzzle. We're not about working out the complex equation of how many clicks per second you need to micromanage and win through that. We're about using smart tactics, using your units in an intelligent way, using things like cover to help your units, using directional armor, being a smarter commander, not just about knowing that X number of hit points and X number of damage equals Y. So Company of Heroes 2, we've taken it even further. We've added a load of new elements with our new technology thanks to the Essence engine. So one of the new things we've added is True Sight, which is our new take on line of sight. We wanted to change up how line of sight works in a strategy game. So typically speaking, you have this magic circle that's punched in the fog of war, and anything that's in that circle you can see. So you walk up to a wall, you can see through the wall, you can see what's on the other side of it. That's something we didn't feel was the best way of doing it. We wanted to kind of change that up. So True Sight is a dynamic line of sight system that takes into account what your troops can see. If you're next to a high wall and your troops can't see around that wall, you can't see around that wall. If a building is on fire, smoke blows in front of you, that will actually block line of sight dynamically. So it's a really exciting new feature that we think will really change up the strategy gaming genre because it lets you set ambushes and do things you'd never be able to do before. In this game as well, we've also added a load of new technology around the weather systems. Weather played a hugely impactful role in World War II. In 1941, when the Germans invaded the Soviet Union, it reached minus 40 degrees in that winter. Fuel lines in the tanks froze, loads of soldiers died from the cold. It pretty much crippled the German army, and we wanted weather to be more than just a pretty texture. Most games, and not just strategy, most games as a whole, you play a winter map, and they're painted white, but they're exactly the same as a jungle map, exactly the same as a desert map. It's just a coloured sort of ground that you're running on. Our cold text system actually brings that to life and makes weather almost a third opponent in a battle. So first and foremost, our snow system tied into cold tech. Snow actually has depth and affects gameplay. So troops will struggle to move through deep snow, they'll be encumbered by it. Snow can be layered on and removed, so heavy snow fuel can accumulate, but also you can blow up and evaporate snow, so the snow level can be built up or reduced during a match. Our ice is the same. Ice has texture. Vehicles will slip and slide around on ice, but ice also has hit points and can be damaged, so all vehicles have weight. If a vehicle drives over ice, it will start to crack around it. The heavier the vehicle, the more damage it does. You put a second vehicle over that same piece of ice, it's going to get weaker and weaker still. So now players have the tactical choice of using ice against their opponent, blowing out the ice under a heavy tank and sinking it to the bottom of a lake. All things that you could do in the real world and you've never been able to do kind of in a game before. Third and finally, cold tech also adds in the idea of actual cold and temperature conditions to a map. So when blizzards blow in, the map's going to get a lot colder, and you're going to see sort of little thermometers pop up next to your troops' health bars. If you leave them out in the open, they're going to die from exposure. So a smart commander is going to have to start thinking about garrisoning in buildings, using vehicles and building fires, staging the ground and keeping those troops warm. So it's a lot of new exciting technological advancements that we think will really help move strategy gaming forward, and things that a lot of gamers won't have seen before.
Yeah, definitely. And in giving this demo a try, in figuring out the game, ended up losing pretty quickly. And I've noticed that victory conditions didn't revolve around the traditional kill all the guys necessarily. There was a strategic kind of base taking progression. So what are the specifics around that, and why did you guys decide to make it a little bit more complex, or I guess strategic, over the just total elimination of an enemy?
So different missions will have different objectives. So some missions, your objective is going to be taking a city, it's going to be destroying something. The mission you were playing today, there were specific tactical points that you needed to capture and hold, and as you hold those points, that was sort of depleting your enemy's score to the point where they would lose. So that's one of many game types we've got in the game. We have ones where it's going to be a more traditional sort of attack and destroy, and we have some really exciting kind of siege missions. I mean, there are a lot of really amazing sieges that happened on the Eastern Front, and we've kind of brought some of those to life. So you're going to be seeing huge city sieges where you're fighting to kind of retake captured cities or defend cities from the German invaders. So there's going to be a lot of variety to the type of missions you're going to be playing.
Excellent. I guess my last question is, just since we're dealing with the RTS genre, what plans do you guys have for kind of a multiplayer environment? Do you have... How big do they get? You know, this demo was I had a partner, so kind of was 2-on-2, I think, but what do you guys have in terms for that?
Okay, so we're not going into a lot of detail on multiplayer right now. It's something we're going to be talking about in the future, but it's a really important thing for us. Obviously, it's really important to our fans. It's a pivotal point of Company of Heroes as a series. So we'll have some really exciting innovations in multiplayer. I think some of the things we've shown today, you're going to see how those shape up in multiplayer. You're going to see the True Sight system, how that really revolutionizes how you play. Persistent tracks, you're going to start being able to see where your opponent's gone by following tracks in the snow and ice. The weather systems are going to play into it in a really interesting way. And even for players who are kind of playing skirmish, which is actually very popular with multiplayer, kind of the AI skirmish, we've had much more enhanced AI. You probably saw the AI do some really clever things during those matches. So I think that's going to be really great for those players who are sort of into the skirmish multiplayer rather than the competitive. But there'll be more details on multiplayer coming in the months to come.
All right, well, Company of Heroes 2 looks pretty awesome. We're excited about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In 1944, more than 160,000 Allied soldiers stormed Europe. "2,000 of them never made it home. Over 300,000 Allied troops liberated Paris from the Nazi occupation. A victory the free world will never forget. In total, there were almost 500,000 American deaths in World War II, and over 300,000 British men and women lost their lives. And while their sacrifice was great, another's was even greater. Holding back the Nazi invaders, Russia lost nearly 11 million troops and more than 15 million innocent civilians. But the real casualty is in forgetting their sacrifice. This is their front, their courage, their story.